So, hi everyone, and welcome to FeForte. If we haven't met before, my name is Georgina Gorman. I'm here with my fellow co-founder, Jackie Lehman Gray. Jackie, you want to wave? So at FeForte, our mission is to build female resilience using science and philosophy. And one of our key principles to help build resilience is to share knowledge. And today's conversations is one of the ways that we do that. So we will be recording today's session. If you're on the line live with us and want to ask questions at any point, please do chat in. And what we'll do at the end is we'll hold a Q&A, and feel free to come off mute and ask any questions that you may have. We also might stop the recording towards the end if there's any questions you want to ask off recording, sorry, if you want to ask any anonymously, we'll do that. We hold these types of conversations regularly, either as recorded sessions or live events, cover all sorts of different topics. You'll hear some personal stories of challenge and resilience. You'll also hear from women in particular roles or industries that can share their advice with others looking to do the same thing. And you'll also hear from scientists and experts about the ways that we can build resilience and flourish. So if you haven't already, make sure to sign up to our mailing list or follow us on social media, and you'll hear about all of our upcoming events. Just a quick note on the rest of what we do. Our other key principles to build resilience are to create community and change habits. And to create community, we've established a group of women where of all backgrounds and experiences, where they can come together and network, support each other, mentor each other, and we hope to really create change that way. Finally, we build resilience through changing habits. And on any of our training courses, you will learn key habits for resilience. So do check out our website or get in touch with Jackie or myself to learn more about that. So without further delay, thank you for all bearing with me as I went through that. Welcome to today's conversation with the wonderful Silvia Del Corso. Silvia is a search engine optimization expert. We'll probably refer to it as SEO just for time, which makes sense. And she's founder of Pink SEO Marketing. After growing up in Italy and running a digital agency for 6 years there, Silvia and her family moved to England, and that was less than 5 years ago. She's going to talk all about it. It was quite a challenging journey because she had obviously moving over, had no existing customers, no connections, and she started her business again from scratch. She now has a thriving business here and in an arguably male-dominated field. So she's going to talk a little bit about what that experience is like. Today, she's really going to share how she's continued to find resilience through all of those decisions and life changes, and talk to us a bit about some of the lessons that she's learned along the way. If we've got time as well, we're going to dig into a few SEO tips that she's kind of going to share with us. So thank you so much, Silvia, for taking the time to join us today. And if it's okay, I'll hand over to you to tell your story.
Well, thank you for having me. It is a pleasure and an honor because having a female-based community supporting each other and trying to share our experiences, it is so admirable. I mean, I'm glad to share the little bit of what I went through, hoping that it might help someone if ever in the future you find yourself in a little bit of a critical moment, thinking, okay, that happened to somebody else. It's not just me. We can get on. We can definitely overcome any type of issue. And I was thinking basically of what's been a connecting point throughout all of this little bit of story. And as much as I tend naturally to resist change instinctively, the thing that connects everything that's been through has been change. And I was checking something that's inspiring and was supposed to have been said by Darwin. And he said that it's not the strongest or the most intelligent species that survives, but it's the one that's more adaptable to change. And well, in my case, you can hear from the funny accent that I wasn't born here. And I apologize if it sounds difficult to understand. Just let me know. I'm definitely trying my very best. Basically, I started the story in a very different position from where I'm now, geographically and in terms of ideas of what I was going to do, because I was in Italy, in Tuscany, and I was studying languages, foreign languages at the university. I was offered the dream job for a 20 years old because I was offered to travel across Europe and visit the capital cities of Europe,
Nice.
attending the touristic expos and negotiating contracts with tour operators. So it was a very high profile type of job, and it was always traveling in big hotels, the dream job. But then what happened was the internet, basically. So the touristic system changed so much. People weren't booking through catalogs. If you remember the old school catalogs with all those photos, I was doing late hours checking them all before they went printed. So it was completely changed. People were booking online on their own without any agencies. Tour operators started closing, and the whole system kind of collapsed. I was made redundant, and me together with lots of other people. So this phenomenon that was growing like a disease, the internet, I said, gosh, but it's interesting. There is so much potential on it. And my husband was actually doing that as a job because he's a developer. And I got always more and more fascinated, and I started studying. And I decided, what if this becomes my new career? So I completely respect. I retrained on my own, going into digital marketing. So SEO was not on the plate yet. SEO is a branch of digital marketing, and it's the most technical of them all. In the beginning, it was social media, email marketing, paid advertising. And at that moment, I had the first, as it's called, entrepreneurial seizure. So my husband and I together said, gosh, we are so good at what we do. We can do it for ourselves instead of having no one as a boss. We will create our own family empire, our own agency. So off we go, full of hopes and dreams. We get an office, we furnish it, we get a team of young people like us. They were the mini gurus in what they did. And in Italy, the economic market, it was full of hope at the time. So we were hoping that we could somehow do it. So we were trading time instead of money, but we wanted to leave this to the kids. We wanted to build something. And going on, we realized that actually the economy wasn't going to thrive. It was going to go stagnating and then lower and lower. And companies were struggling to pay their own employees and the massive taxes that they had. So they couldn't think about marketing, and they started not paying the bills, and we started working anyway. And there we go on. And it's been 6 years in which we definitely wanted to keep this open in despite of any better judgment. And it started to become detrimental even from our own mental health perspective. In the end, when we were both at the same time on a first level of insanity, I started looking differently at something that he particularly had been receiving all the time ever since. There were job offers from abroad. As a developer, he was always approached by recruiters internationally and offered to get an employment somewhere else. And in the beginning, I never wanted to leave my country because I were where my friends were, and it's quite a beautiful country actually, and I I enjoyed it a lot. I was born in a seaside village, so me and the sea are like the same thing, and I couldn't think of anything else. But then it started to become difficult for the kids as well, because you know, when you really cannot afford not even the basic things that you'd like to give them. So I said, no, that's not what I want for them. I'm doing something kind of against me, but I'm doing it for them because I will give them a better future, career opportunities. All my friends were still back there, and we grown up together. We grew up together. They have kids, and when we think of future career opportunities, I know that my kids can do basically whatever they want as long as they put their head seriously in the game here. In Italy, you can be as committed as you want, but if there is no access, it's like playing with a smaller deck of cards. You can't get everything you want. You don't have the resources. So the let's wait became a let's try. So he started applying, he started agreeing on some of these offers, and we went through a funny phase of applications and technical tests. His English wasn't the strongest. And it was fun because I was the one writing to the in English to the recruiters. And then when he had the call, then I couldn't be speaking for him because I don't have a male voice, unfortunately. So he was the one who had to talk, and we will never forget how fun it was because he was completely frozen by fear. And but it finally we got the offer you cannot refuse. Major company, major senior level type of job. So when I said, what is your salary expectation? And he said something, the recruiter said, actually, we were going to offer this. And we were looking at each other and said, is this real? In 2 weeks, we informed all the friends and family that we were leaving at my birthday dinner. So I remember standing up and saying, everybody, you know what, we are leaving. And it was just before the Brexit had been signed. So we knew that there was the vote. We knew it was probably likely that UK was coming out of the European Union, but we were going to do it anyway because we wanted, at the moment, that was what we wanted. And we signed the tenancy agreement without even seeing the house. We packed the house, I mean, the personal belongings, only the ones that you cannot replace, because you can buy everything else anywhere but your memories. So basically, it was like the kids' books, the photos, albums, those things that you cannot replace. All the rest we were going to buy. So we packed, and the cats, we packed everything and we left. And we came to a country that none of us had ever seen before, because I had been traveling, but London and the UK were never, ever been visited before. So we had no idea what to find. And it was incredible in the beginning, because for someone who was as difficult, naturally not so inclined to change as I am, you get completely out of your comfort zone. Like, your comfort zone is in Mars and you are in Venus. It's completely another planet. You have no idea how the health system works, how shops work. Anything had to be written from scratch, and no one, you cannot ask to anybody. So basically, I remember that I was managing most of the days just hour by hour. I'm managing my breath, saying, I'm not going to panic. Now I got to do this. I will do this, and then I will think of what I will do next, because otherwise it was too much and I was completely overwhelmed. So I will take it bit by bit. Now let's bring the kids to school. Okay, now let's go back home. And home was a new place, and it's not your place. So it was completely new. But again, it was also exciting because you cannot get bored at all. Everything was fresh. It's like you have a new skin and you touch everything for the first time. It was really a new life. And I couldn't believe, every now and then I was thinking, I am living in the UK at the moment. Oh gosh, is it real? I couldn't think of where I was in the planet, because it was strange. But then I got used and I started working in the beginning as an employee doing SEO and part-time with the kids, because for the kids, it wasn't the easiest. My son, particularly in the beginning, my daughter was younger, but for my son, it wasn't the easiest. So I wanted to be next to them. And so I just chose a part-time. But then I had the second entrepreneurial seizure. And again, as I was working, I was struck by this kind of feeling. I can do this again. I actually kind of enjoyed when I was running my own business. Why don't I try again? So I started, instead of just closing the employment, I started working part-time and part-time on my business, which meant nights, basically, when the kids were sleeping. So during the day I was working, I was doing the mom and everything. And during the night, instead of sleeping, I was building the new business. But it was exciting because it was my new thing. So I was so full, I couldn't sleep. I was so full of ideas. And it actually worked. One thing I decided was that I didn't want to go down the jack of all trade route, doing all things digital, because then when I was back in Italy, after doing all things digital marketing, SEO, as I said, was the most difficult thing, but that was even the most challenging, the most exciting, the one that I wanted to grasp. So back in Italy, I started learning and studying on my own. And I started attending events. And at the time, SEO was much more than now a male-dominated, completely male-dominated industry. Meaning I was going to conferences and events that were all full of men, and then there was just me and a couple of other women sitting. And when we were having the coffee break, they were looking at us like, okay, can you bring me a coffee? No, I cannot. I'm a man like you. So, but I was learning, and I was proud that I was able to do something that was the most difficult of them all. So in the beginning, I started again trading time for money. So offering to my husband's clients, he was creating websites, offering them free SEO just to try and hone the skills. And then with time, I started getting predictable results. So I saw that it actually worked. And you see that it works predictably. You see how things, and you gain confidence. You start thinking, I can charge for my services. And I started charging, and actually that became my route. And the thing that I really, really liked, and I liked the most all the time, was that SEO, more than all the other branches of digital marketing, is the measurable one, is the one with numbers, because you see how many visitors grow on a website, how their ranking on Google grows on a website, how their sales grow, how all the things change after you did something. So you measure, you test, you see results. And for me, it was a matter of security, knowing that it's provable, it's measurable, it works. So when I was here, I said, I don't want to go down the marketing agency route. I only want to become an SEO specialist, specialized, like focused on this. And here I was in the UK doing this as a freelancer, and I had no clients. I knew no one. So how do I create myself a client base? I know how to do stuff, but how do I get clients? And I was told about networking, which in Italy doesn't really exist because the economic situation is so dire that people cling to any type of contacts that they have, and they don't share it with anyone else. So if I have someone for doing social media and they may need someone for doing SEO, I don't share the contact. I keep it for myself because otherwise I might miss some opportunities. I might lose a client. So collaboration is not really an option, unfortunately, which makes everybody weaker instead of stronger. And here I was told about networking. I had no idea what it meant. So I started attending the first meetings, and they were in person at the time. So I was the stranger in the room, the one with the funny accent, the one who knew nobody, and it was daunting. But I said, I need to do it. So I just have to get my big girl pants and do it seriously all the time. And actually, it's changed not just the business, but also the personal life, because actually I got to meet people and women, because the first networking organization that I joined was a women only, and they were supportive, they were friendly, they were people who wanted to help me out and get to know me, and they weren't scared away by the funny accent. They didn't think I was a loser because I closed and moved and restarted and left back home all the people who used to work with us. I felt I had disappointed so many people. So I felt really a failure, but they were very welcoming and they became friends. And so I remember the first time I wasn't driving at all. I just started driving last summer, because driving on the left side of the street is quite a big thing for me. But I was on a bus, double-decker bus, and from the top floor, I recognized somebody on the street. It was a lady I met at a networking event. It was the moment in which I felt I belong. I know someone. I know that person. It might sound stupid, but it was, for me, it was the first moment I didn't feel like the odd element somewhere. I could recognize somebody. And it was nice, because then they became friendships, and now I feel that I belong, actually. So with time, the business has been growing, and I've been developing a lovely network of people. I become much more confident. I've been working on my personal development a lot. Business development for me is actually personal development. So having a lot of business coaching, a lot of actually getting my head in the right place, instead of all negativity, trying to see what I actually got and what I can get, and where I want to go. And it's been nice, because then the other major change, talking about all changes, happened 1 year ago when pandemic hit. And instinctively, I thought, okay, now it's again going to be a moment in which everything is going to be collapsing again, because I was used to the Italian reaction of things. We just stop spending. Instead, with a business like mine, helping people going online was needed, because everybody suddenly needed to go online. Whatever they sold, the services or products, they needed a website, and they started looking at their website seriously for the first time and saying, you know what, I don't like my site, no one can find me, I need to work on it. And so the business boomed. And that's where, in the beginning, I didn't do the right type of choices, because I was all very much a technician myself in my mind. I was doing the entrepreneur, but with the technician way. So I was thinking from a tactical perspective and not a strategic perspective. I was making my clients happy, giving them, delivering results myself, not my business. And I was the business and the business was me, and I could not detach the two of them. So I could only stretch myself further, I could only work longer, I could only get more overwhelmed. And what happened is that over time, I started losing the passion, because it was a little bit too much for me, and I felt I didn't really like the job in itself. It wasn't the job actually that I didn't like, it was the way I was living, because I wasn't my own boss. My job was my own boss, and it was the worst type of job, because I couldn't quit it, I couldn't leave it, I couldn't sell it. I was just a slave of the machine. And I thought of what could be a way out, and I understood that I could only grow if I structured it as a business. So getting people in the team doing things with me and finding two personalities within me that weren't much developed, the manager and the entrepreneur. I was very much the technician in that. So I needed to step up and find systems, find processes, and being able to organize things that could ideally potentially work without me. So I don't need to be there doing the day-to-day work all the time because I can't be there all the time. So yeah, basically it is this the point in which I am at the moment, still trying to resist change sometimes, still working on myself, on my adaptability, trying to improve, overcoming my own resistance and improving my own improvisation. So going with the flow and yeah, getting always more curious about the new possibilities that can happen.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Silvia, for talking us through that. And I have to say, first of all, you have a beautiful accent. So I'm not going to allow you to say funny accent anymore because you don't. You have a beautiful accent. I'm going to ask a quick question, and then if anyone has any questions, please put them in the chat, or again, we can come off mute if you'd like. What's coming up for me, Silvia, is how much you say you're resistant to change, but yet you've had so many huge changes and you've jumped into them, you know, choosing to do SEO. And as you said, it's the hardest part of it. And it was male dominated and you were one of only a few women in the room. And those are huge decisions to have made. And you must have needed a lot of self-confidence to stick with it and do that. And I just wonder, I know you say you're resistant to change, but how do you talk yourself out of it? Or how do you talk yourself into situations like you have done in the past?
Well, the major change going to live to another country wasn't actually an option. There was a need. So it's like when your house is on fire, you have to jump down the window and you don't think about it too much because either you die in fire or you got an option and you get out of it. So that was the only option. And the kids were the biggest drivers. So I wanted them to have an easier life, to have many more possibilities. And so I thought they would thank us one day, and they actually did it. They've been thanking us, and it was in tears. I said, my husband, see, they said that. So it was because it's not been easy for us and for them, but actually I knew that I was giving them a two words basically, because they still have their roots, even if they've been uprooted and rerouted, they still have a little bit of their roots and their grandparents, their family. We go there when we can and visit them. We try to keep speaking Italian at home as a rule, only Italian at home. Otherwise, they will forget it. And they are forgetting it actually, because sometimes when I'm in a hurry or when I really want them to understand, I tell them in English and they understand really, because now they are thinking and talking in English. And when they sleep and they talk, when they sleep, they talk in English. So it means that they actually processing their thoughts in the new language. But that's okay. And now our lives is here and we can go there to visit friends, but it's something that we would never have hoped. Actually, we've reached a level of serenity and tranquility with the major economic panic and worry has subsided, and so it is if 10 years ago somebody told me you will be there in this stage, I would never have believed it. So every now and then I still don't believe that it was me and this is me.
We talk a lot about that on our program, about imposter syndrome, and women particularly we always are surprised when we have success rather than taking it for granted. I had a question which was, when you found yourself in those big networking events full of men and you were one of two or three, What were your strategies for getting to talk to them? You know, what did you do? Did you talk to the women first, or did you strike up conversation over coffee? What were your ideas for networking with men?
I wasn't a big talker at the time, so I was one of those who were just sitting somewhere, taking notes, or reading my notes again and studying. I was the nerd in the room, basically, not particularly socializing, because I've always felt a little bit shy, and at the moment I really felt like the odd element in the room. So I can't give any suggestions, because at the moment I was even younger. I was much less confident. I didn't think that I had anything in common, because I felt they were there and I was here. So I was like an ant and they were elephants, and who was I to speak with them? I mean, I can just sit and learn. And so I wasn't in a good position.
So what would you say to your younger self now, if you
go and speak with them? You're going to be eating them all for breakfast in 10 years.
Brilliant. Okay. So I've got loads more questions actually, but has anyone else got any questions that they'd like to ask Silvia?
I thought it was really interesting the way that Silvia could turn from being in the travel industry and literally being faced with losing her job because of technology, but rather than being swamped by it, actually what you did was you recognized that it was an opportunity. And I thought that showed great vision to then immerse yourself in what had actually threatened your very existence, to embrace it, to learn about it, to become an expert in it. I thought showed an enormous insight, actually, and to then dedicate, because it can't have come overnight. If it was something that was completely new to you, you clearly persevered. How long did it take you until you, and did you actually attend classes? When you said you basically trained yourself, how did you do that? Was it through formal education? Was it reading, playing around? How did you skill up to something that's so technical?
It was difficult because all the courses were very expensive. So there was that element as well. So I started devouring everything that was available for free online. And then I had luck because my husband's best friend, his brother had just started an internship with a major training provider in Italy of SEO services. So he managed to sneak me as a friend into some of the trainings, and they were very high. And those were the moments in which I was really the ant in the room, because I felt I wasn't even supposed to be there, but I just wanted to learn everything and devour everything. So I was taking notes as a crazy. But yeah, the thing with changing and reskilling, I think it's like when they say you fall in love with the enemy, because yes, internet has broken the working world as I knew it. But it was so incredible, all the things that you could do with that. And just, it's like artificial intelligence now. If you think of all the things that can happen with that, it's just so exciting. You want to jump on the bandwagon and want to be a part of it somehow.
I also wanted to ask you, sorry, Jackie, I hope you don't mind me throwing in a second question. Do you think that being a woman in a traditionally male environment gives you different perspectives for your clients? Because you have positioned yourself, you know, the very name of your business, Pink SEO, is like waving a flag. I'm a woman doing this. And they often talk about how boards that have women on it are much better balanced because they have different perspectives to offer. What do you think you bring to the table as a woman in technology?
I cannot generalize, and I don't want to generalize, but what I've seen so far is that the type of reactions that I had from clients, sometimes they feel a type of attitude that's a little bit more patronizing with men as business service providers. In my industry particularly, it can be tremendously technical and difficult. And one of the things that I'm fighting, and my mission is to try and instill again a complete sense of trust in this industry. Because I've been speaking with people and often they told me, I tried SEO, it doesn't work. Yeah, okay, let's see how it was done. Let's see what it was promised. Let's see what they actually delivered. And the simple definition that we often hear, obscure science, obscure art, it's not obscure at all. It's like maths, it's like science. You do things, you test them, they work. There's a lot of coding and technical knowledge involved, but you can and you should all the time be able to explain everything as clearly as not my cat, but my daughter could understand. So it should be something that's not a fog screen that's hiding behind big technical terms, something that you don't even know behind. Because one thing that I hate when I hear is they say, well, the Google's algorithm is like the ingredients of Coca-Cola. We never know what it's in there. No, that's completely false. The algorithm is not clear because there's been so much manipulation around that if they tell you precisely what's in there, tomorrow everybody is finding tricks to manipulate it. But we definitely know what works and what doesn't. So when they say something like that, it's because they feel not confident to be able to deliver results. So they say, well, we don't know if it will work. We need to see because Google is changing continuously all the time. And that's completely false. I mean, the last major algorithm update was some years ago, and now things are quite stable. They're going to be going towards quality in a user experience point of view. So the new change is going to be based on page speed and so on. So it's always rewarding quality, and it is actually possible to see what works and what doesn't.
If I can quickly build on that question, I think really interesting question, Jackie. Silvia, what drove the decision to put your femininity, to put your gender as part of your brand? And do you think that that has impacted your client base? Is it mostly women that work with you, or do you find that it's a mix?
It is a mix. And in the beginning, it was my own pride of being able to do a male, generally a male job as a woman, and saying that I can do it as good as they can, if not better. So that was the footprint that I wanted to leave, that the business is led by a woman, and that is how it started. And in the beginning, I started all the branding elements very pink, and my husband was mocking me and saying, okay, you'll never have a male client. And instead, my clients, they didn't know the product name. They didn't know, they just wanted results. They didn't really care of the branding and whatever. They just wanted to see things, to see visitors, to see sales. So whatever you call it, does it work? Okay, it's okay.
Fabulous. Thank you, Silvia. Any other questions from the group?
Yeah, I'd like to ask Silvia a question. So would there be, thinking about the journey of starting a new business in the UK, would there be anything that you would try differently? Or if you were to advise somebody as embarking on a similar journey, if you can call it similar, I think you've got so many tangents to your journey, but yeah, you know, would you offer or think about doing something differently if you had the chance again?
Well, I think that the type of path that I've gone through is quite common. So we start as freelancers, we have all the phases. We have like the acceleration, and then we have the overwhelm, and then we have the worry, and then we have the despair, and then we have the loss. And then either we close and we get smaller, and then it becomes atrophy, or we push on and we give it a bigger dimension. So what I would maybe become better at doing in the second business here in the UK would be creating systems from the very beginning. So it would have worked better. I would have saved time, and even for myself, I would have saved a lot of overwhelm and burnout, because I've been working weekends and nights, and even my own mood, when you're in burnout, then all of the family and the kids, everybody is unhappy, because if the mom is unhappy, everybody's unhappy. And I was also feeling guilty, because I was supposed to be the mom and entrepreneur, and I should be better at doing this and that, and I'm not a good enough mom, I'm not a good enough entrepreneur, I'm not good enough at doing anything. So if I be better doing this again, it would be loving myself more and having better boundaries, thinking that I can't always sacrifice I feel the limits, and when I feel that I'm pushing the limits, it's wrong. If I feel a limit, it means that it's there to protect myself.
I wondered if I could ask something, which sort of leads on from that, Silvia. How did you manage your negative self-talk when you had these moments of thinking, I'm overwhelmed, I have this feeling of burnout, I'm not coping with all these different things in my life? How did you go about sort of grabbing your sense of self and pulling yourself out of that moment so that you could continue?
Well, one element that I was recommended as part of CBT was trying to find proof and validation of my negative self-talk. So when I was telling myself I'm a failure, I was trying to find if there was a proof and validation of what I was saying. Actually, not. I feel like this, but I have proofs. I have been achieving something, so I'm not a failure. So that was an internal tool of trying to cope with my massive mood swings, and basically then there was just a lot of self-discipline. So every day, come rain or shine, I'm up, I'm doing my bit, I'm working, and in the end that was what made the difference, not the big things, but just doing it and keeping on doing it and committing and doing it better. So yes, I done things that weren't the best, and I could have done better, but then I realized, okay, now I know how to do it better. So if I can stop, but it takes a long time to become wiser this way. In the moment you can just stick to it and commit to it, and okay, I will keep on doing it anyway, and I will get somewhere.
I loved your little anecdote about being on the bus, because it sort of, for me, I was just reflecting on inclusion and how we feel like the other, and it doesn't matter really who you are, and we all have places where we feel like the person who's different, and how important it is to actually have this collaboration that I think women are very good at. And it was really a reflection rather than a question. This sense of belonging, when you had that moment of I now belong, I'm now part of the in-group, as we call it, which is fascinating. I've not actually heard the term entrepreneurial seizure before, and I love it. Am I just missed something?
No, it's in a book. The E-Myth.
It's I love it. It's a really good term.
When I read it, I say, yeah, I had it twice.
You're clearly very resourceful. You mentioned that your son struggled a bit when you first came to England. How did you have to be resourceful around your kids and starting this new business?
Well, when we moved here, he was 7, and he was doing year 2 in Italy. But based on his age group, when we came here, it was year 4. So he came from just speaking very, very basic English. At school, they don't. Mine wasn't amazing, but I studied at the university, and I've been traveling. And even if I'm shy, I'm cheeky. So in the end, I just threw myself there. But with my son and my husband, they're quite shy as creatures. So he didn't speak much. He was introverted and didn't know many words in terms of vocabulary. He knew names of food, a couple of verbs. So he ended up in a year 4 class there, where I remember the first week, a couple of weeks, he got homework on the digestive system and Vikings, and he couldn't know where to read the page because he had no idea what was there. And we were trying to do that homework on the bus and I remember he was struggling so much during the day that at night in the bed he was shaking. So it means he was releasing the tension. And until Christmas, he didn't really feel well at school. But then after the Christmas holidays and the New Year, he started getting friends and things started getting better. And I kept on saying, that's for your bad, for your good, for your better future. We need to try and do it, and we will be rewarded. And in the end, yeah, now they're very happy. He's got a girlfriend now, and when we try to go back to Italy, he doesn't want to because he doesn't want to leave his girlfriend.
Oh, sweet.
I can only imagine, Silvia, how taxing that is, because when you were talking about obviously coming over to England and hearing everyone all the different things, like different way of shopping, different everything. I know that I think we all love going on holiday, and it's a bit of a sore topic right now, given that no one's been able to go anywhere. But it is stressful if you're in a country that speaks a different language and you're not quite sure of the customs. Whilst you're relaxing and it's lovely, it is using a completely different network in your brain when you're trying to work out, what should I be doing? Should I be queuing, or should I be asking for something, or should I wait till I'm seated, or all of those things that you just take for granted when you're in your home country suddenly become a source of cognitive load. And yeah, I was just reflecting as you were saying it must be really difficult for that to be 24/7, as well as being in settling your kids in, and your husband being in a new job and you taking on a new job. That must have been really, really hard.
Yeah, but I need to say that if I'd been a little bit naive without, giving less importance, worrying not enough of how this was going to be, because when we got the job offer, we thought that it's all rainbows and unicorns. We're going to be doing it like this. And then I actually found myself there without a friend, and I underestimated the impact of loneliness and missing everybody, and you don't have anyone to ask. So I underestimated that. But I also need to say that I found a lot of people just genuinely willing to help. And it's a great testament to the UK, to London as a city, to the UK as a country, because they are used to welcoming people from anywhere. And my son at school, he was coming from Italy, but there were kids coming from everywhere. So the teachers were used to helping him out. And I wasn't the only one speaking with the accent. And I remember when I was signing my application for the school for my son in the Barrow, there were people just sitting next to me and helping me out. So I've been helped a lot. I can just say thanks, because it's been welcoming, very, very welcoming.
Lovely.
Silvia, when did you have the light bulb moment about networking? Because actually it's quite a transformative opportunity to tap into. It's an instant network, and it's not just them, it's the people that they know. But as you say, it wasn't something that culturally was natural in Italy. So presumably somebody needed to introduce you to that. How did that come about? Because presumably that made a huge difference, not just, as you said, both professionally and personally.
Well, it happened basically in the same situation in which I had the second entrepreneurial seizure, because I was working as a part-time and together with the mom of and classmate of my daughter, she's a photographer. We went to an entrepreneur road show, female entrepreneur road show. So it was for mompreneurs. So moms were coming back into the work after the being made redundant or changing careers, thinking what to do next. So there was that big moment in which, and it was so exciting, so many things being said. And that's where I said, I want to restart. And everybody was doing this type of speed networking, and I had no idea what they were expecting from me. So I was just saying, hi, I'm Silvia. What do you do? SEO. And that was me. That was it. I mean, search engine optimization. And that was what I could say. I mean, you couldn't get much out of my mouth. But yeah, in the end, I got better, actually.
I think that's a great takeaway of the power of networking personally and for business owners. And we've got about 5 minutes left. So we'd love to keep hearing if there's any other questions. I do want to ask Silvia, because I know that some of our audience are bound to be female small business owners and entrepreneurs, and might be interested in hearing a bit more about search engine optimization and some of the things that they can do. And I know they can come and talk to you, and which we'd love them to do. But do you have any quick tips around people's websites, around SEO, that if that applies to them, if they're looking at their own websites, that they could perhaps start to implement?
Well, there's a lot of things that we could say, and in 5 minutes, it's a little bit challenging. But first of all, I would tell them to become curious about what they can do on their own, because there is a lot that they can just understand. If you understand how it works, then you're empowered to take decisions, whether to outsource it or to do stuff on your own. But if you outsource it, you know how it works. So just getting some training, and instead of being scared and thinking it's technical, it's something I cannot do, actually it is doable in different levels. You can't expect to be doing coding if it's not your thing, but even just thinking of what does my user search for, which words do they use. There are so many things that you can just start researching. Who are my competitors? Who are ranking better than me? Why? How are their pages? How is my site doing? Getting curious is always the first step, and then we can think of where to go, and you can ask for help. If you start, for example, you start testing your site, you see it's too slow, then you can ask somebody. You see it's not ranking for anything, you can get some help. If you don't know how much traffic you have, there are a lot of tools that you can use for free to measure, and then at least you become aware, you got your insight. It's one of the most important tools of your site, of your business, your website, nowadays more than ever. And people often use it just as a business card, showing it around, but a website can give them much more, because it can actually give them leads and inquiries. So it can be a massive source of growing the business.
Fabulous, thank you, Silvia. I think that should probably be the overarching theme, is being curious. I think you've shown a lot of curiosity and a lot of confidence and jumping into challenge throughout the whole of your story. So I think hopefully that will inspire people for SEO and wider than that as well. Any other questions from anyone on the line? We've got a few minutes left, so I'll start wrapping up. If anyone does have any other questions and want to stay on, we can stop the recording if you want to stay on for the next couple of minutes. But thank you all for joining us. Thank you so much for listening to the conversation. We hope you found it interesting. I certainly did. I'm sure Jackie did as well. Thank you so much, Silvia, for taking us through your story. And I think, yeah, I think we can all take a little bit of your passion and energy that you've shown us today, and use that in feeling confident and feeling like we can take on new challenges. So thank you.
It was my pleasure, and yeah, thank you for giving me this opportunity. Yeah, we only grow together, so if we can help out each other, even just by sharing our stories, we don't feel alone in doing something, because I wasn't the only one going through that, but I didn't know that others were. So yeah, it's a feeling that we are all somehow in similar situations.
Thank you, Silvia. You're very inspiring.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for joining. To learn more about resilience, again, our next programme is in June. If you haven't already heard about it or been on a programme with us, we'd love to meet you, get to know you more. Do get in touch with us if you're interested in hearing more about it. And again, we'd love to see you on an event like this in the future. So thank you everyone again for joining us today. And thank you very much. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much.